All right, let's jump right in and break down how to handle one of those tricky IELTS writing task 2 questions. We're going to build a high-scoring essay together, piece by piece. Okay, so here it is. This is our prompt, a classic discuss both views and give your opinion type of question. You see these all the time, so really getting the hang of the structure we're about to build is going to be a game changer for you. When you see a question like this, it's so easy to just freeze up, right? Or maybe you just want to jump in and share your own opinion immediately. But here's the secret to a great score. It's not just what you think, it's how you structure your argument. And today, we're going to build that killer essay from the ground up. First things first, we need to tackle one side of the debate. So let's start by building the case for the view that these huge executive salaries are just plain unfair. So the heart of this argument really comes down to the negative effect it has on the rest of the employees. A perfect way to kick off your paragraph is with a really clear, strong topic sentence, just like this one. And here's the crucial part. You don't just state your point and move on. You've got to expand on it. Explain the chain reaction. When there's a huge pay gap, it can make regular employees feel totally undervalued. That can create a really toxic us versus them kind of vibe, which, just tanks motivation and can even lead to good people quitting. This is where you make it real. A powerful, specific example brings your argument to life. You could talk about a situation where a CEO gets this massive bonus at the same time the company freezes everyone else's pay. Of course, the factory workers would be furious. That leads to things like strikes, which hurts the whole company. Okay, for our second paragraph on the unfair side, let's bring in a slightly different angle, more of an ethical argument. This time, we're basically asking, is anyone's work really worth that much money? So here, you can really dig into the logic of it all. You could argue that a company's success doesn't come from just one person. It's a team effort, right? It's literally impossible for one director to work 100 times harder than a frontline worker. So when you look at it that way, giving one person such a massive chunk of the profits feels like a misuse of the money everyone helped to create. And a really smart way to drive this point home is with a strong comparison. Think about a nurse, for example. They work these incredibly long, exhausting shifts, doing life-saving work. A hospital literally cannot function without them. Is their contribution really worth that much less than a board member who attends a few meetings? Posing a question like that really makes your reader think about how we value different types of work. Okay, we've got a really solid case for one side of the argument. But remember, the question asks us to discuss both views. So let's switch gears and build an equally convincing argument for the other side. All right, time to flip the script. For this next part of the essay, you have to put on a different hat and argue why these incredibly high salaries aren't just fair, but are actually completely necessary. The whole basis of this argument is that the huge salary isn't just for the hours you work. It's compensation for the insane amount of pressure and responsibility that comes with the job. You're basically paying for someone to carry a huge weight on their shoulders. And you expand on that by getting specific. The decisions these directors make can mean the difference between the company succeeding or failing. We're talking about the jobs of thousands of people. One wrong move could lead to bankruptcy. That level of stress and round-the-clock dedication, well, the argument is that it demands a high level of compensation. To make this concrete, just picture a CEO of a major tech company. They're juggling constantly changing laws in different countries, crazy market swings, and new tech popping up every 5 minutes. A single great decision can create billions of dollars in value for everyone, while one mistake can wipe it all out. The salary, then, is a reflection of that enormous potential impact. Now, for your second point on this side, it's a very practical one. It really just comes down to simple competition in the global marketplace for top talent. You can explain that there's a very, very small number of people in the world who are proven visionary leaders, and companies are fighting over them. If your company isn't willing to pay the market rate, you're going to lose that top talent to a competitor, and that could be terrible for the business and, in the end, for all the workers whose jobs rely on strong leadership. Here's the perfect way to illustrate this. Imagine a car company that's on the verge of going out of business. They might try to hire a turnaround expert, someone who is famous for saving struggling companies. The only way they're going to convince that person to leave a successful competitor and take on this huge risk is with a massive financial package. So in that case, the high pay is the tool you use to save the entire company and thousands of jobs. Okay, you've done the heavy lifting. You've laid out strong, well-supported arguments for both sides of the issue. That's awesome. But you're not done yet. How do you bring it all together in a powerful conclusion and give your own opinion? A great conclusion is actually pretty simple. It just follows a three-step recipe. First, you quickly restate the main topic in your own words. Second, you briefly summarize the two main arguments, the tension between fairness and the need for top talent. And finally, the most important part, you clearly state where you stand on the issue. Do you lean one way, or maybe you think there's a middle ground? So if you take one thing away from this today, let it be this simple but powerful structure, PEER. It stands for point, expansion, example, and results. You start with your main point. Then you expand on it, explaining what you mean. Then you give a specific example. And finally, you explain the results or the consequence. If you use this little formula for every single body paragraph, your arguments will always be clear, well-developed, and super persuasive. Look, this framework isn't designed to give you the answer. It's designed to give you something much more powerful, a clear, effective way to build your own answer. It takes care of the structure, so you can focus on what really matters, your ideas. So with this toolkit in hand, the only question left is, where do you stand on this debate?